Yes. Mr. Dougherty.
Here.
Vice Chair Murphy.
Here.
Mrs. Jones. Yes. Chairman Smith.
Here.
All right, and let the record show that also present are Town Manager Dunham, Assistant Town Attorney Nazaro, myself. Absent with notice are Mrs. Smith and Mr. Roche, and that's it.
Thank you, Rita. Everyone had a chance, I hope, to read the minutes of the prior meeting of September 24th. Does anybody have any additions, corrections, suggestions, etc. to those minutes? Not that I have a motion to dispense with reading them.
I'd like to make a motion that these minutes are approved for the meeting of September 24th, 2020. And they do not need reading.
I'll second. Moved and seconded. Rita?
Mr. Dougherty?
Yes.
Vice Chair Murphy?
Yes.
Mrs. Jones? Yes. Chairman Smith?
Yes. Thank you. Are there, anyone need to bring before the meeting any additions, withdrawals, deferrals, or other changes to the agenda as presented?
No.
If not, we will move on to announcements. You have in front of you, the future meeting dates. I see they've been moved for November and December to accommodate the holidays. I saw some comments in the minutes. Will all the four of us be here for those meetings, or is?
I'm not here for November.
No meeting. Or you, Malcolm? Okay. We will have to be careful that we have enough then for the November meeting.
Mr. Ross said that he would be back for that. So.
Okay, so Bob and me and Curtis and maybe Georgette will be here.
Yes.
Thank you. Let's move into the public hearing. Rita, do you want to swear in anyone that is going to, oh no, that's, let me first ask, has there been any ex parte communication by anybody on the board?
No.
I have spoken to the town manager, the town attorney, and also Rita about the items in the agenda. Rita, would you now administer the oath to anyone who expects to speak today? Or
Yeah, anyone want to speak at all? Raise your right hand and please give your name.
Mark Marsh.
Keith Williams. Frank Lund.
John Hudson.
Rita, can you hear Bill Boardman?
Help you, God?
I do.
Thank you.
Oh, there may be someone on the phone that would like to speak, Rita.
It's Mr. Boardman.
It's Mr. Boardman.
Go ahead, Mr. Boardman.
Yes, I'd like to, when the appropriate time comes, say a few words.
Okay, thank you, Bill. We will be sure to do so. Okay, the first application is going to be presented by Mark Marsh. Mark, would you proceed, please?
Good morning. Bob, it's nice to see you in real life. Yeah, you look more comfortable. Yeah, Keith Williams is here with me, from Rivera Williams Landscaping. We're here representing Georgette and John Smith on their house at 555 Old School Road. It's been before you in the past. These are the photographs of the existing house. This house is very interesting because it's actually been developed in reverse, and I'll show you on the site plan. When it was originally done, we put on this new entry element and a back loggia about 8 years ago, because the front door faces the Little Club golf cart, so it's completely backwards. You arrive on the best view in town, or best view, I think one of the best views in town. So the Smiths have toyed with this, and we're going to present today what we'd like to do is try to reverse some of the space interior-wise and create a much more pleasant lifestyle or living in the house. These are the existing. I think everybody here is familiar with the property. This is the rear, and that's the loggia that was added, if I can get this here, as part of that last addition. So here is the view from the garage, the existing garage. So you can see what what you're giving up in terms of just amenity on the site. So with that, the proposed site plan is, and north is straight up where the Little Club golf course is. The garage is here currently, with the wonderful view. What we're proposing to do is add a new garage here with a new entry off of Old School Road. We will maintain the other, existing driveway to a motor court, but it will terminate here and not continue around. So this will be more of a service everyday entry to the new garage. Then we are expanding, adding an office and redoing and renovating the existing kitchen. The total addition is about 1,875 feet, which is below what we're allowed. And I'll let Keith later on come back and go through the slight improvements that we're proposing. This is the existing plan. As you can see, the garage has a view of the golf course. So with that, this is the new proposed plan. First of all, converting the existing garage to a family room and kitchen, so that you can afford a view to the golf course. Along with that is a additional everyday dining, which we call the breakfast area, which is this. I'm gonna pause for a second.
Technical difficulty.
I'm the anti-technical guy, so I'm a person of all technology. Thank you. So that dining, proposing a new everyday eating or breakfast area, this octagonal element, obviously with the attempt to have again a view to the golf course. And then this will be a new office, and a new 3-car garage, which basically replicates what was there on the north side, to the southeast of the property. There will be some minor internal upgrades and remodeling. You may be aware that the Smiths suffered a very serious water intrusion from a leaking pipe over a long period of time. And in fact, the house has really gone through major upheaval in terms of removing the water damage. The floors are all lost, the wood floors. The intrusion was amazing. So the timing was right to address this whole remodel. We do have, this is a roof plan, and we are proposing a loft over the new garage, which is within that 1-story roof area. It's a loft area. The house only has 3 bedrooms now, and this 4th bedroom / loft is really an overflow space. It complies with everything, and the staircase comes from part of the new addition. In elevation, you'll see this is the existing front or north elevation, and you can see the breakfast addition here. Again, like we did in the past, this is what I call a colonial and neoclassical influence. The house is brick, as you know. We added this more colonial entry. We added to the rear that loggia again, which has a strong colonial influence, and we thought we would do a similar treatment around the windows of that breakfast area to just give it a kind of upgrade or increase the architectural quality of the home. This is the area again. You'll see that the breakfast area. There is one correction from what you're looking at in your package. We studied this a little more, and we weren't happy. The house has a very abnormal eave overhang of a little over 30 inches. And when, as you'll see in your package, when that was applied to this octagonal, it just looked so out of keeping. It looked like a top hat. So we've cut it back to a much more appropriate scale, and it's in keeping with the style that we're emulating here for that element. And you'll see that shortly in the rendering. These are some sections because we wanted to just show you how we are achieving. The most important one is the one in the top right with the loft and the garage area. This roof that we're proposing is lower than the main house roof, so we're not increasing the height and mass at all. And it all seems to work well. I'm just going to show you. These are the renderings of what's proposed. So here you'll see the addition. This is the existing entry, and the motor court here, which had a driveway going around the garage, which was here. So now we have achieved the ability to add a bay window to the now family room area, which was the garage, north wall of the garage. And again, the materials that you see blend in with the existing. And I think it achieves something that Smiths have been denied for a long time, not being able to see, to the golf course. This is it a little closer up. That's the new bay window. And this is the breakfast area, and you can see the clipped eave, as we call it, which again, based on the form of that area, is more appropriate. This is looking straight on from the new garage and office area and the breakfast area. This is a view of the new entry off of Old School on the south side, and you can see it's, and Keith will go into this a little bit more detail. This is the everyday drive, and that's the breakfast area, looking to the view in the distance. Here we have the south side of the house. This is that loggia we added about 8 years ago. We're proposing, and Keith will go over this, to do a trellis and an outdoor fireplace here, which would be added to the new garage wing. The pool stays the same. This is a close-up of that area, another outdoor area. And then this is the fountain again. I'll let Keith come back to it. So I'm going to take it back to the site plan, landscaping site plan, and pass it over to Keith. If you'd like to, I'd answer any architectural questions that we may have.
It looks like in some of your, the to-be-done houses, some of the shutters were missing. Are you changing from black to white, or go back to your north elevation there?
On the rendering?
Or which would be the front on the rendering, yeah. It was, maybe it just went by it.
No, the shutters will match what's there.
They're all black now, right? But
Yes.
are there none shown here?
There will be shutters there. That was,
They're gonna stay.
you'll see on the black and white.
Okay, so they'll be black, they'll remain black wherever they are now.
Yeah, the house is a white brick, as you know. Exactly.
Shutters on the bay also, the bay window also?
Yeah. Sorry.
Any other questions?
I have a question, yeah, the loft, what kind of ceiling height were you able to get in the loft?
It's approximately 8 feet
Okay,
in the center part, and then it goes down.
it will be, okay, with dormers or something?
Yeah, and it's, to be honest, it's going to be a fun area for young adults.
Yes. Okay, makes sense.
With drums.
Right.
So with that, any other questions? I'll pass it over to Keith and ask him to just take you through.
Morning, for the record, Keith Williams, Rivera Williams Design. Basically, Mark took you through my presentation, but I'll run through it again. The design from a landscape perspective is really just responding to the new, additions to the house and the rooms and how they function, in response to creating gardens, for visual effect and creating some spaces, that function a little bit better, for entertaining, relaxing, and just enjoying the pool area. I will point out, the motor court right now is not, what we're proposing is a little more symmetrical and square. Currently, it's not symmetrical, there's a little bit of a jog in the motor court here. And the two parking spaces or pull-out spaces don't exist. There's two big magnolia trees that are there now, which will relocate on site. This creates more symmetry and a lot easier, maneuverability with cars backing out, exiting. We have two little gardens here off the new, window looking towards the golf course, kind of almost welcoming gardens into the garden, and then this expansive lawn heading east. And then off the breakfast, bay windows, again, we're kind of surrounding this area with gardens, with gardenias and galbeas and ground covers, and then a beautiful fountain access with the water to the east. An additional parking space, for people, working or cleaning the house or whatever, rather than just using solid pavement, we're using kind of grass and stone. And maybe most important is the new pavilion, which kind of creates this, destination coming out of the kitchen area, barbecue grill, espaliers and vines on both walls here, and then have this, wooden trellis area with the fireplace. I'll show you the renderings again. Equipment area here that'll be walled in with a gate, existing pool. This type of terrace exists now, which we'll maintain and keep. And then terminating, the view is this fountain, tile, water obviously spilling out of the wall into the lower basin. And the purpose of this is a visual effect, but also we have all this equipment that we need to hide, and keep setback off, properly off the, property line. And then the idea here is that we create gardens on either side. So visually, we're not stopping, the view, we're kind of damping it a little bit and forcing the path, towards the west. This large tree exists right about where we want to put the new curb cut driveway, so we're going to pick it up and move it, more or less on the center with this garage. Is it right to go forward or left?
No, sorry.
Backwards,
Yeah, this is, the runway prepared, coming to the two little knob gardens, center of the window. The garden here off the breakfast area. So it's just kind of feel, visually you can see the golf course, but again, you have something kind of, creating a visual effect at the center of the window. Fountain to the east, love trends. From a palette standpoint, we're really not inventing the wheel. We're kind of keeping and maintaining what exists now. Landscaping collection, so before we take these pictures of the driveway entrance here, big tree to the west. More architectural. The idea of connecting the space, the new entrance into the house or kitchen area, garage area with this pergola fireplace. Have a separate, you'll have a separate exterior seating area rather than a covered loggia area. It just creates a little more function and really more interest in the garden. And this tiled wall, we're missing a little bit of detail in the rendering here, so there would be a stone cap that wraps around the top. Probably a bronze scupper coming out of the wall, probably a stone rosette, and then these two columns would be stucco with a stone cap, and I'm sure we have some vines kind of trailing over the top.
How tall is the top?
So it's probably, it's not quite, it's about 8 feet. Just enough, we want to make sure we're hiding the equipment and creating enough noise to generate full equipment on the drone that noise.
Will the fountain be on a timer?
That's a good question. It's probably gonna be on a timer and probably on a manual switch inside, so if they wanna operate it manually, they can. And it would cycle with the pool, so the pool water and the fountain water would be treated the same. That's really my presentation.
Mark, I had a question. I see some of the windows had electric shutters. Are they going to all Hurricane now? You know those things that slide up and down?
Yeah, they actually do have retractable, shutters on them.
They're keeping them?
Yeah, we haven't crossed that bridge yet. Obviously, all the new areas will have impacts, so those won't have shutters, but we have to make that evaluation as we go along. But the existing shutters will remain. They're all retractable in the socket. I think that's the reason for the really large socket extension.
Mm-hmm. Has there been any feedback from neighbours?
No.
Any other questions, Mandy? Malcolm? Thank you.
Well, thank you.
If we have no other questions, would anyone like to make a motion?
Yep. I'd like to make a motion to approve a level 2 architectural site plan to permit the construction of a 1,875 square feet of additional living area to an existing single family dwelling with 3-car garage.
That's second.
It's been moved and seconded. And any other questions? Rita, please.
Mr. Doherty?
Yes.
Vice Chair Murphy?
Yes.
Mrs. Jones? No. Chairman Smith?
Yes. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Everybody have anything to say about it? Oh, it is. No one could ever figure out that Mrs. Johnson is guilt of all that. She's trying to golf it.
Was her name Sammy?
Sarah, but
Yeah.
like Sandy Winston.
Sammy.
Quite a woman. She was a pilot during World War II. She was a really neat lady.
Okay.
Miss Rita talked about her a lot.
Well, the Connollys used to live in there.
And the Conways. Sandy's who built it, though.
Okay, yeah.
Now, but anything is just walking the.
Switch seats.
Maybe.
You can switch with Renee. Then you're back to the ARPG, that's an issue, that's why I think, do you want to sit here?
What do I do? Absolutely. We just thought you might want to see the
Do I need to swear you in?
Yeah.
You want to tell people this is nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
And what's your name?
Correct.
Okay. Perez.
My name is Carol Perez. I'm with AG2M. We're landscape architects and 132 North Clinton Avenue in Delray Beach, Florida. And we're having a little out of order because I'm sorry, I have a meeting in Boca at 9:30 with my mother who's in assisted living. So I have to keep that appointment. It's hard to get this meeting.
Just a second, Carol. Bill Boardman, can you hear us?
Not very well, Tom, but okay.
Okay, well, Carol, try to speak up, all of us who speak, so Bill can understand. Thank you.
I'll just mic down. So this wonderful house is being proposed. We have a landscape plan that is tropical. It provided shade all around the site. In the front yard, we're proposing 3 gumbo windows in the driveway. There's an existing gumbo window, actually we're proposing 2 more to form a grouping. It'll be a really nice canopy above the street and for the driveway. And to frame the front door, we've used Alexander palm, there's purple palm, right in this area. And on either side of the house, we're putting in houses, coconut palm, coming up on the sides with gardens underneath. To the south, there's an existing hedge on the neighbor's property. It is a tall hedge, it's about 8 foot tall. And we are proposing on the north side, another hedge to match that. That would be podocarpus. And in the backyard, we're proposing a small clusia hedge to give nice screening. On the sides of the house, we're reducing the scale of the house with stable palms, and there'll be various sizes, staggered in height. And in the backyard, in the pool area, there is a trellis feature. We've backdropped that with foxtail palms and trees of Augusta trees that would provide different levels of screening, also for the neighbor, but also for the residents. And there's also there's a lawn area right next to the pool area. We've backdropped that. The backyard, empty on the east side, with Japanese blueberry trees. It would be a nice little formal backdrop for that. And there's an existing gumbo limbo tree in the backyard that is absolutely beautiful. So we're making use of that as a garden feature. And that is located right in this area. It's a symmetrical form. It's a probably 20 foot by 20 foot gorgeous gumbo limbo. And on either side, we have gardens, tropical gardens of Montgomery palms on both sides of the property in the back with various tropical plantings, Nucianda, Monstera, and philodendron shrubbery. We have screened all of the utilities, and that's about it. There's, in the backyard, there's a seating area, there's a pool, there's a pod area, garden area, and if there's any questions, I can answer them.
Is that a graphic of what you just explained on the floor? No, on the colour rendering.
One of those.
It's nothing to do with that.
These are your.
No, I'm sorry.
Oh, okay.
Sorry,
The reason
yeah.
for asking is it's great to get a sort of plan view, but one of the things we push for is to have the vegetation from day one, what it's going to look like, because we have had many years ago occasions say, look, it's going to be 15 feet in at least 20 years' time. This one is to have a graphic of how the vegetation will look when basically the property's finished.
Yeah, I do not have a colored rendering of that look.
This one about colours.
Okay, not of the vegetation, but in the front yard, the coconut palms, we have specified as 20 to 25 foot high. That's on either side of the house, which will, be in scale with the home. Let's see, the gumbo limbos, we're proposing at 14 foot height, so we are proposing larger material.
Right.
We have existing plant material also with the gumbo limbos. We have mature hedges on the south side. And, clusia, we have a 5 foot high hedge. So the clusia grows very fast. You can always increase it to 6 foot if you feel that's necessary. That would be on the south side and in the backyard.
Thank you.
I have a question. Yes, is the tree disposition plan that you've got on TR1, is that still the plan, or has there been any changes in that?
There haven't been any changes. In the front yard, there are some, there's a black olive tree that is very messy, it's not in very good shape. The property hasn't been cared for, the trees haven't been cared for lovingly, except for that one gumbo limbo in the back, and then we also want to keep a gumbo limbo in the front, but the rest of the plant material, it did not look good. There's some invasive species we're removing, the Scheffleras, and we're relocating, there's a coconut palm that we could relocate that's in fairly good condition, as well as an Adenidia palm. So the trees that are in good condition, we are relocating, but a lot of the plant materials are in bad shape. There's also a ficus tree, which is in the corner between the south neighbor, and his property in the front yard. It's been hacked back. It's overtaking a fence and a wall on the neighbor's side, so, I'm trying to get rid of that, and so.
Okay, yeah, but as this goes through the process and when we have motions in here, we do have, conditions that if any of those, any changes, in the tree disposition plan happen, that you need to come to us, so we'll at least know what the changes are.
That would be fine, yeah.
It would also be helpful, as Malcolm mentioned, that, because these are 100-foot lots and the neighbors are, can see, especially at the second story on the home, that we really like to see how tall the material is gonna be to screen visual sight lines, not only from the second floor down at the neighbor necessarily, but also the neighbor looking up at the second floor. So, I can't tell from this how tall, you've described them, but it's very good in the future if you could give us a visual of almost an elevation, the south elevation and the north elevation, so we could see how they look.
Understood.
And I don't mean to beat a dead horse, but, so once this is all done, the house is constructed and all the landscaping's put in, we go out and do a walkthrough. I know Delray Beach will provide you the CO, but, they don't do that until we do a walkthrough, and we'll be, using your guides on the plans as to what's out there. So if there are any changes, just let us know as they happen.
Of course, I think you're gonna be very happy
Sure.
with the size of the plant material and with the choices of the plant material.
Okay, anybody have any other questions on the landscaping? She's gonna shoot to Boca.
All right, thank you very much.
Bill, Boardman, any questions on the landscaping?
No, it looks like a nice plan. It looks like a nice plan.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
All right.
Good morning, everyone. It's a little difficult to speak with a mask. I'm kind of playing it out here, so pardon me if
Do your best.
I'll do my best. So my name is Freddie Polania. Most of you recognize me from before. I'm here representing Mr. Zessin, for 3247 Kohler Drive. And, well, we're proposing a single-family, two-story residence, in the character of the Bermuda, style. What we are proposing is a home with a light gray slate tile roof. We're proposing, bronze window frame, a nice light white, paint color, accent with, some taupey, charcoal, light gray material, for both the garage doors, the window frames, the columns, and the guardrails. The home is approximately 3,800 square feet, 4 bedrooms. We've kept our high beams within regulations, so we meet all the setback requirements. All the land coverage requirements. Let's see what else I can say about this. As you are aware, we're screening the property with the right vegetation at all locations, especially for all mechanical equipment, so that it's not seen from any of the neighbors or any portions from the street. Let's see, what else can I say? We have a pool and open trellis at the rear yard as well. Our plan also consists of a circular driveway, as you can tell, and we are utilizing some of the existing species that's described for the landscape architect. In basic, that is, what we are proposing, and if you can take a look at the rendering over to the right over there, you'll notice that, we've kept the house within scale of the adjacent property. We're staying within all the, building height, requirements. You have a question? Oh, I'm sorry. And, in a nutshell, that is what we are proposing. If you have any questions.
Could you explain why you need the special exception?
So what we're doing is we have a, excuse me, this map. We're allowed 4,800, we have 4,816 square feet for our coverage. And based on the loggia and the areas on the plan, we have one covered terrace in the front. And that, along with the covered entry and the loggia, we needed just a few more square feet in order to obtain clearance and approval for the lot coverage. So by doing so, it actually brings us under the 4850 to 4755. And that is why we're asking for the special exception.
It's just that what we've done in the past is, the special exception was designed for people who have existing properties and codes came along which they had trouble basically complying with. You got a blank sheet of paper. So that's why for 128 square feet it may sound iniquity, but the exceptions and in some instances, and very rare instances, variances, granted to not put, to be too onerous on existing properties. This is, wonderful design, but we've tried to stay away from giving exceptions for brand new builds.
I understand. And we did the best to our ability to not go in that direction, but we found that if we did go in that direction, our bedrooms became way too small and unusable. And all we are proposing is one covered area in the front, which is architecturally pleasing. And in order to achieve that, we do need the extra square footage. And that is why we're asking.
That's by the front door.
Yeah.
Okay. And that front door, what is, out of the 128, how much is the front door?
Well, it's not necessarily the front door, it's the structure to the left of the front door, which is the covered terrace there.
Okay.
That is the covered area that we have there.
The one upstairs.
Yes.
I see.
Yes.
Oh, okay. I think the exception you're referring to about the roof projections is about 300 square feet. You can go up to.
Yes.
Any feedback from neighbours?
Mr. Boardman, who is on the phone, was the only one that has contacted us.
Bill, would you like to, either raise questions or make any comments at this time?
Sure. First of all, I think probably most people know who we are. We have the house just to the north of this one. We've been there 20 years and have been involved in affairs around the community. And one of the things which I did in full disclosure was, I think it's been Rita 6 or 7 years ago, in the midst of the O'Boyle situation, the town had to have a special committee formed to review the design manual, and the commission asked me to chair that committee. So I chaired that committee, and so I had the opportunity to become somewhat familiar with the process and all of that. As I said, we live on the north, and we have known this day was going to come. We'd have rather seen it be a dog park, but that didn't work out. So we're glad that a house of this type is going to be built there. We've looked at the plans, and the actual planning of the house we think is just fine. It's going to be a very nice home for someone. We don't see anything there that we feel we need to raise as any concern. We all have air conditioners, and we all have to deal with them, and that's just part of living in a nice suburb like we do. The one concern I would raise, and it's sort of more with that old chairman of the committee hat on than it is a neighboring person. And that's what you might call the ramp image of the front elevation. When I look at something like that, I sort of say, okay, right now we've got over 21 floor houses on Polo Drive between Gulfview and Old School. And you kind of say, okay, what if we had 20 more of these? What would it be like? And it just hit me initially as modern, contemporary, and Japanese inspired when you looked at the front elevation. I think the contemporary nature's got a lot to do with colors. I just heard the representative say that going to have charcoal window frames. That's, of course, a very popular color right now on contemporary structures. So that's the one thing I would like you to think about is the initial look does not come across to me as Gulfstream Bermuda. And I know the architect, who's certainly more knowledgeable, I guess, than I am, but maybe not on Gulfstream, has designed it in his mind to be that way. I don't think if you drive around the core area, you're going to find another house, two-story principally, that's going to look like this one. This one is different. And I wish the committee would look at things like, there's a term in the manual, complex facade treatment, excessive multi-layered setbacks are prohibited. I don't know whether it's prohibited or not, and I don't really, my concern is the look. And I wish the committee would take the time to just look at that front facade and say, these floor to ceiling windows, gray trim, and ask yourself, is this really Gulfstream Bermuda? I don't find any examples in the manual that even remotely look like this rendering. The other thing is Mr. Essen present?
Yes, I am.
Good.
Yes, he is.
I look forward to meeting you, we'll be seeing each other. I hope we have an absolutely spectacular construction site management handbook, and I think Rita's going to be sure you have a copy of that. And it really is. I think it's fair. It's fair to the builders. It's fair to the neighborhood, and I hope you will be supportive of the terms of that document. So that's all I had, Tom, and I appreciate being able to dial in. I'll see you all in a few weeks.
Thank you, Bill.
Can I clarify one thing?
Sure.
On my rendering there and in the packet, it's referenced that, the window frames is more of a bronze color, not the gray. I was just referring to the paint color more on the light gray tones, just to have a little bit of, just a slight contrast with the windows. So that's more the terminology I was trying to use. But the windows are a light brown.
Do they have any questions or comments? I do. I agree with Bill, that it doesn't look like any of the other homes in or around the area that it's in, and it's not the design of the home, although it doesn't look very Bermuda style to me. It's that it looks brown and gray when you look at it from the front, and we're kind of a neighborhood of pastels. We even fight vigorously over the color of shutters on people's homes. And so I wonder if there's some way to tone down that dark look. Now, maybe it's some of the shadowing, Freddie, that you've drawn.
Yeah.
Our city manager suggested perhaps we could see this in a 3D image or something that gave more direct sunlight to it. But you've got black columns or dark, the frames, I guess, on the porch on the front side, and they're I guess this is Benjamin Moore HC 166. I don't know. That looks very dark or very brown or gray to me.
Yeah, the prints out of this printer, they do show up dark, I will say, because if you just reference the larger image over there, it's a lot lighter. So this does print dark, so I apologize for that. But we could definitely explore a three-dimensional view in order to showcase.
Yeah, Mr. Zessen, are you opposed to something with a little more of a Bermuda color style or a pastel style, or is this is more of a modern look to a Bermuda home? I don't know what.
I think that we try to respect the Bermuda style. I think that, when we looked at the home that we wanted to build, we wanted to have it modernized from what a typical Bermuda home would be. So I think that probably is reflected that way. I think it's a beautiful home. I look at the neighborhood and I respect the fact that there have been traditions and people have, colored their homes a certain way. But in my opinion, while this might be, a little bit different than the homes in the neighborhood, I think it might be one that others want to emulate. You know, it's a beautiful home.
Mandy, any comments at all?
I agree it's a beautiful home, but I do find it very Japanese. I'm partial to the Japanese style, but it's definitely not dark green. I would like to see another rendering with maybe the colors toned down somewhat, or maybe rather than such a heavy color, use a paler taupey shade. Would the town be happy with that?
Well, I think that we're an architectural review committee, we're not architects, but we're trying to tell Mr. Zesson that really, the preamble to the code really speaks about anything that's built is supposed to be in keeping with the neighborhood and the setting that it sits in, and you're correct, it doesn't look like most everything else, and maybe other people would eventually like it and build more like it, but for now, I think for us to represent the town and the community, that we'd like to see the colors toned down more. One, I'd probably like to see maybe a 3D presentation, and I'd like to see your thought, working with your architect, Mr. Zesson, maybe there's a few things you could do to tone it down that would have significant difference. Greg?
And I'd just like to follow up with the chairman's comment and point out an example, Freddie. This area right here, with a 3D, it's gonna show it's actually recessed.
Yeah.
Instead of looking like it's protruding farther out than the rest of the, and so, and I think it's, you've got it shaded because it is, covered.
And it's also set
But it
back.
appears as if it's, all the way to the edge of the house. But if you look on the plans, you can see that it's really recessed. And so we've had other presentations where we've asked the architects to maybe come back with a 3D look. And, we've been really surprised on how much that changes the look.
And I think the other thing is, you've mentioned that your printed doesn't represent this.
Yeah, so
We're judging this,
Yeah.
and what we have sometimes as well, taking Chairman's point about when we've looked at shutters, somebody brought in a shutter, actually what it would be. And if you could see the real colours, because you could be doing yourself a disservice here. We're judging something that, we're looking at this and you have to say, well, actually, it's a printer.
Your glass looks like it's brown.
All the glass is gray or brown, and I think if the glass were clear, all the shades are full.
Do you have access to the software that Mr. Marsh was presenting?
Yeah, we can do you're talking about doing a 3D.
Yeah, like we saw earlier.
Yeah, we could have displayed it on the TV, just showing the images on the television, or doing a 3-dimensional.
Well, I think 3-dimensional, and I don't know, this just seems just like there's only 2 colors on there. I see blue sky, and then I see a house with lots of brown.
And gray.
You may be doing yourself a disservice, the way it's presented here.
Okay. So you would recommend a 3-dimensional?
Well, yeah, and maybe the windows wouldn't be, the glass portion all look dark gray or brown even, and I don't know if that's probably the way it would really look either.
Okay, it's more graphical.
And the shading, it just makes it even look darker.
Yeah.
Right here.
So honestly, we love the design of the home, and it's very attractive, it sits beautifully on the property. I think we're now just down to really the view from the street, that you're not gonna see the back. We certainly don't mean you just change the front and leave the back the way it is, we want it to be consistent, but the view from the street is not what we would think it would be as an acceptable home, looking at it as you ride along the street there. Do we,
So is that in reference to color or more design?
No.
No, sorry.
No, go ahead, Mike.
I was gonna say, normally we agree it's a beautiful home and the design, it's the way it's presented here.
The color scheme.
The colour scheme.
So let me ask you this, moving forward, if we're granted approval to move on to the next phase, could we present a three-dimensional, aspect of this home with the colors shown a little more, proper to what they are and with some samples?
Yes.
Here.
Huh?
It needs to come back here.
Yeah, but it does need to come back here, and you see, we've got a meeting on November 17th.
We
So
can
that's
have a 3D ready by, for that meeting.
But also, examples of the paint, not
Yeah.
from the
Yeah,
picture.
we can bring the paint swatches.
And,
Yes.
and also the do you have a sample of the roof tile?
Yes, we do actually, yeah.
Yeah, that's,
Because that we can do, because that's what I was concerned about, if the design is good, and we're just talking more about the color, the shading, which is probably not represented correctly on the small print, then we can clarify those items, put a three-dimensional, product for you to see and actually bring some samples.
And while we're at it, the point we made about the elevation of the landscaping, how that would appear against the property as well, because then it's a complete item.
Okay.
Again, it doesn't have to be full colour, it's just how it appears when the property will be completed, what does the landscaping look like? Because we have had issues before where somebody says it's going to grow to 15 feet, and it comes in with 3 feet, and that's not acceptable.
would we reserve all the other motions until that time? I think so. Okay. So what we're proposing is a deferral for the next 30 days or so, and you understand what we'd like you to bring back to us at the next meeting? Okay, there, should do.
Yeah.
I'd like to make a motion that this application is deferred to be represented at the next ARPB meeting, taking into consideration the points that have been discussed in terms of the 3D rendering, the example paint in the roof tile, and the elevation of the two businesses, and the elevation of the landscaping as it will be on the date of completion.
Is there a second?
I second.
Been moved and seconded, Rita?
Mr. Dougherty?
Yes.
Vice Chair Murphy?
Yes.
Mrs. Jones? Chairman Smith?
Yes. And also, as a committee, I think, can I just get a reading here about our approval of the special exception for the extra 128 square feet? I think we're okay with that, Freddie, without taking a vote. So it's really just down to color schemes and landscape elevations. Okay. All right? Very good. Thank you very much. Thank you, Mr. Zesson. We'll see you in a month.
Thank you.
Are there any items by staff?
No, sir.
Any items by any other board members? No. There's no public. Bill, you still there? He's off, okay. And nothing by the public, so we adjourn.
Can you hear me?
Oh, yeah, we got you, Bill. You okay?
Yeah,
Bill?
Can you hear me?
Yes.
I think we ought to talk about donating a new sound system.
That's for you on the, Civic Association. Get on it.
I'd like to talk to the town manager about that.
Uh-oh. He's not in the room now.
No, I'm not running from you, no.
All right, Bill,
I want to see that you get a better phone system through there.
Well, I mean, just so you know, I mean, the board doesn't know, but, the staff has been, exploring, the needs that we have with our sound system. Our audio visual, if you will.
Bill, the other thing is put on your calendar for November 17th. 19th, September 19th, that we're gonna have a follow-up meeting to discuss what we just moved on, okay?
Okay, good.
All right.
Thank you.
Well, thank you.
Thank
We're
you very
adjourned.
much. Thank you very much. See you soon.
Bye-bye.